Hi, guys. This is Dr. Scott Young, and today we're going to talk about Rosh Hashanah. We are going to kind of talk a little bit about this. Today is the 17th, is the last day of Rosh Hashanah. And some of you are like, look up for your redemption draws tonight. Please calm down. There's a lot of easy things to say about this. I know some of you are like, don't tell me to calm down. Be calm, okay? Because I know you're hearing a lot of truthers are talking about this. This is something I've studied for 37 years. Listen to me on this one. I'm going to share with you some good information here, okay? Okay, so when it comes to eschatology and end time issues, I mean, this is something like I've spent a lot of my life on. I mean, I've written 5 books on the topic. I've spent almost 40 years doing this particular thing. This is before I've done the NESARA thing. This is all I spent my time on. Okay. I mean, there's 650 verses that talk about end time issues, specifically the 7 years of tribulation. There's 300 verses that talk on the millennial reign. And I know a lot of you people want to, not all of you people, but some people over here want to go, well, yeah, but there's 777 books of the Bible. No, there's not. Get out. There's 66 books of the Bible. You want to bring up all the other ones? Hey, listen, the only other book that talks a little bit about it, Book of Enoch, that kind of references a few things, but it doesn't really talk on eschatology necessarily. It has some like oblong references to end time issues, but it's not really about that. It's not really its foci. So let's get off of that kind of stuff with that. Because we really need to focus, if we really want to talk about this, we want to talk about end time issues if we want to have that conversation. So today is Rosh Hashanah. Let's talk about what it is and what it isn't. Rosh Hashanah is not like the day that you look up and Jesus is in the clouds necessarily. Okay. Now, where most people take it is from this kind of verse. Now, first, before I sorry, let me pull away so you can kind of see. I want to show you. Sorry, I pulled away. You missed my voice there. I want to show you some of the verses that I actually have these interesting kind of statements here. So let me kind of bring up eschatology. Sorry, I went away for there for a second. Eschatology, I like 53 subcategories and 489 notes. If you can't see that, you got to see it in a bigger kind of screen. I mean, I got a ton of these verses. And then over here, I have pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib. I mean, the Bible talks about all three of them. And if all scriptures God breathed and approved for teaching and reproof, it means that there's something to each one of those verses. And then we have to ask ourselves the question, am I going to pitch out scripture or am I going to pay attention to them? And then we have to say, what do they mean? How do I place them? Okay. Oops. Sorry. Typing in something kind of crazy there. Okay. But let's go over to what the word says in 1 Thessalonians 4:16. Well, so we got the oh man, that's going to be hard for me. The Thess dudes, God, I can't say it today. So just chill out. If you're upset with me on that one. So we have Paul talking to Thess boys, and he's telling them, and he goes, okay, let me just explain something to you. I'm going to tell you a mystery. That's what he says before here. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout. Okay, so he's basically going, this is really super important. I'm not just going to send an angel. I'm not going to send a messenger because I've done that every other time frame. The Lord, Jesus, is going to come down with a shout. He's going to go, it's not even going to, I'm not going to go, hey, dude, I'm going to scream it. The archangel with a voice. So he's saying, and an archangel with a voice, and with a trump of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Now, Rosh Hashanah is about the crowning of the king. Now, if Rosh Hashanah was the date of the rapture, then and you go, well, Rosh Hashanah is the day of the rapture. No, it's not. It's not this particular rapture. Jesus is not crowned at this point in time. Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and the Prince of Peace, he's the King of Kings, but he's not going to be kinged at this very second. He's not kinged. Now, by the way, a prince is already going to be king, but he has not had the crowning event or that ceremonial crowning until he gets, guys, until he gets married. Married. You'll hear it in just a little bit. Okay. And by the way, no one's talking about the dead in Christ will rise. There is a resurrection event that has to happen at that. The dead in Christ will rise there. So you can't really do that. And then we who are still alive will be caught up together with them in the clouds. So wait a second, there's some cloud event, and then boop, they kind of go together, and we'll meet the Lord in the air. So we'll always be together. And you better encourage one another with these words. You better. So that was Scott. Okay. So, like, what? I mean, you got like all these extra words in there that are kind of going there. So this is like kind of crazy stuff. These are just some of the verses that are out there. Now, I'm going to tell you this post-trib rapture verse, and well, we'll get into that one just a little bit. So we'll use another one. I want to show you another slide. No, we're not going to do that. So sorry, it's taking me a second here. No, we're not going to do it that way. Sorry. Have to do it a different way because it doesn't come out really pretty if you don't do it correctly. Okay. All right. So if we don't do it right, it doesn't come out right. Okay, so in this one, this is just the 8th of a 13-part series. So guys, if you really want to know more about this, you got to go through the whole series. Okay, so I'm just going to do this kind of quick. Sorry, let's get this off here. I got to do this again here. Sorry, stop the screen. Present again. Sorry about that. Little things that happen. Share the screen. Come on, Scott, get it right. Okay. Okay. I know you're still like going, Scott, get it right. Okay. There we go. Okay, so that's all pretty. Okay, so here we go. Part 8 of this. And I want to show you this. We're going to do this super quick on some of this stuff. You're going to want to watch this if you want to go further. This is a little pretty timeline here. So this is the beginning of the trib, the end of the trib. Okay. Did you notice how I have Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? Real interesting points. Okay. I've been talking about this for years, a long time. So what happens at the beginning of the tribulation? Now, there are some people, some truthers, who try to tell you that we're coming to the end of the tribulation. No, we're not. They would violate over 650 scriptures that haven't even occurred. Haven't even occurred. Hey, man, you want to pitch out scriptures? God will spew you out of his mouth. You want to be lukewarm? That's fine. You want to skip out on scriptures? Go for it. Revelation 22 says, and by the way, there are plenty of people who are a truther, and actually one or two of them are friends of mine going, well, you don't really have to do all the Bible things, kind of stuff. And they don't say exactly that, but some of them do. And they're not friends of mine anymore. But man, if you don't want to pay attention to the Bible, I'm going to go, hey, listen, I'm putting you aside because I really can't go there with you. It's not a fun thing for me. Let me give you a basic overall timeline of this. There is a pre-tribulation rapture of the bride. What is your position you are the bride of Christ? That's what Ephesians 5 calls you. Okay, that's what you are. You are fulfilling Jesus as the bride, and I've learned that for a long time. My job is to fulfill him as the bride so that he can come back. Let me show you. So that he can come back over here, or show up in the clouds as the King of Kings. The king isn't crowned until he is married. That's just it. I mean, when you guys catch this from a biblical standpoint, it will go, whoa. That's what Rosh Hashanah is. And I'll kind of explain it as we go. We still have to have the Ezekiel 38 and 39 war. People go, well, we're going to be raptured. No, we can't be raptured until the Ezekiel 38 and 39 war. You got to have that. The beginning of the tribulation, I always hear these people are talking about, well, there's the second seal and third seal and the fourth seal and third. I mean, I'm like going, and I'm listening to an audiobook series. And I wish I could remember the exact title of this one because it's gorgeous, but it's called this guy who it's an alternate history, right? And in the alternate history, the guy goes back in time and he fixes the Revolutionary War that really the British won. And he's called the Pale Rider. So he has bulletproof vest and he has these cool guns that they've re-outfitted to make him look like Revolutionary War stuff, but he's got this thing and he's called the Pale Rider. Now remember, the Pale Rider is one that brings death. The Pale Rider would be the third of the seals. Okay, so he's in that first four horsemen. Okay, but you got to have the first horseman, which is the white one, which is the Antichrist. Jesus has to introduce the Antichrist. Go read it, Revelation 6:2. Okay? We have the first 7 seals. The 144 begin preaching. Why do they preach? Because we're gone. We're gone. They have to do their job because we're not doing our job because we're gone. Simple. I mean, just super simple. Economic chaos. That's why when people talk that we're having economic chaos right now, we're not having economic chaos like that. That will happen. The economic chaos. I know a lot of people think that we're having economic chaos because they don't think that NESARA is going to happen. They think the Great Reset is going to happen. No, it cannot happen. If you don't understand why the Great Reset will not happen, go watch my series versus NESARA versus Great Reset. I'm sorry, it won't happen. Okay. The next group that comes in is referred to as the chosen. It's a long story about that one. I don't really want to get into. Then they leave. The mark of the beast is only required in the middle part of the tribulation. It sort of comes in, but it doesn't only happens in the middle part of the tribulation. That's exactly what Revelation 13:18 tells you. You only get, here's what you get. You have the first beast, which you get, and then you get, I didn't even show you here, the second beast, and you get the image of the beast before you get the mark of the beast. Just how it works. You don't get anything but, right? You get the 7 trumpets, and then you get the 2 angels, or the angel and the 2 witnesses. Those 3 characters that start preaching really, really bad kind of stuff, really bad juju on the world. And then those last people who are actually the martyrs who will die for Christ. And then there is another circumstance. That last part of the tribulation. You think that you can live on that time frame? I'm going to tell you that there will be World War III, that 1.2 billion people will die. And that's in Revelation 9:15 through 20. Wormwood would be showing up that would destroy the seas. You guys, if you haven't read Revelation and you do a cursory read, and I saw a truther name starting with M, and she did a cursory read, and I'm listening to her, and she's doing a cursory read with her group. And she goes, "You read it," and she reads it, and she reads it, and she reads it, and then the leader, she reads it, and then you go back through it. I'm going, that's not a reading. I mean, if you want to read the book of James or something like that in a cursory read, go for it. You cannot read Revelation with a cursory read. And then they kind of go, well, this means this to me. Oh, okay, cool. And then they move on to chapter 9, and I'm like going, oh my gosh, there's so much in there. Would you slow down and take this in? Then the 7 bowls of wrath come in. Where have all these things occurred? If you think we're in the tribulation, where have any of these things occurred? They haven't happened. The confusion lies always in the who. I wrote this thing before the NESARA stuff. Do you know that? Okay, let's talk a little bit about this. We always have this conversation that people have about a secret coming versus seen in the clouds and the steps upon the planet. See, the secret coming is the rapture of the bride. That's the 1 Thessalonians 4:16. It's what people get all messy about. And see, that isn't what we're about ready to come up to here. And that's not what September 23rd is, and that's not what we're talking about. Now, in Seen in the Clouds, I'm going to show you that one. It's so cool. It's not even funny. It's so cool. Jesus has to be coronated and is declared to the world. I'm going to show you what that means. When a king is married, he has a marriage ceremony to show that, he has had a joining. This is what we are doing in heaven. This is in Revelation 5, Revelation 6. And then Revelation 7 and 8. We don't really talk about this. And really it's Revelation 7. It's embedded in there that the Revelation 7, Revelation 14, early in Revelation 14, somehow, it's real interesting, the 144,000 just are there, and then suddenly they're off the planet, and they're in heaven. And it's because they have a seal of God on their forehead that no man can harm. This happens in Revelation 7. But in Revelation 14, they're suddenly off the planet. If you can't be harmed, that no man can harm, how do you come off a planet? Well, there's only 2 ways to do it. Number 1, you get killed. And number 2, you have to be raptured. Whoa. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay. And then Jesus has to step back on the planet, taking back his authority of what he has already done. So now we want to get into the Jewish holidays. Rosh Hashanah, you need to understand, late September, okay? It's first day of Tishri. It's the Adam and Eve anniversary. It's about marriage. Do you catch that point? It's about marriage. It's not as much as you guys think. You guys miss what it is when you think it's something else. It's a celebration raising a great noise. Now, I'm not doing this really hard as much. It is called a day of judgment. There are 3 characters. There are 3 different types of characters thought of. There's the intermediate, there's the wicked, and the righteous. This is who the Jews think of. This is not who we think of. This is who the Jews think of. Now, they would not call themselves righteous because they wouldn't be like, I'm not righteous, would be like, you are perfect in front of God. Well, they would never call themselves that. And if you are a religious Jew, you wouldn't call yourself wicked because you would say, well, you'd be outside the temple and you'd be shoved off. No. You wouldn't call yourself that. But you would call yourself intermediate. It's a real interesting terminology because you have to get yourself right with God so that you could be good in that 10-day time frame until Yom Kippur. And it is the coronation of the king. Now, there was a long dissertation I saw several years ago by a rabbi. It was a gorgeous recitation from this rabbi talking about the coronating of the king. And none of these people who talk on ad infinitum ever really conversate this particular topic. We really need to understand this better. Now, here's the interesting part. The shofar blast, people want to talk about it, but when they do the shofar blast, they do 100 shofar blasts. Those 100 shofar blasts means it's a complete blessing. That will never really happen in the heavenlies until it actually is finished. Fini. When we have that final situation, that shofar blessing, when it's talking about it in different areas, and that's in Revelation 14, when that thing happens from the heavenlies happening and the whole world hears that, it will talk about a complete blessing. Now, Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year. It is a day of fasting and prayer. You must be right with the community to enter the next year's crop or your business community. You better be right, because if you're not over here getting this thing done correctly, you are in big old bag of juju beans. You are so screwed, it's not funny. Okay, so you better go walk into every single person going, hey, Jody, please forgive me because I screwed up. It doesn't matter whether Jody forgives you or not. It matters that you just went over and told her, hey, I'm sorry. I really, 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 really screwed up. This is what I did. This is what I did. Blah, 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 blah. Right? This is what you did. It's called the Day of Atonement or purification. In Old Testament kind of terminology, when they did purification, they took a hot rock and they burned you on the lips. What it is, when you do purification, and there's several other ritual points that we talk about purification. Normal purification comes by fire. And in gold, when we purify gold, we burn off the dross. When we have a purification, we burn off all the gross stuff of it. So you got to raise the temperature so high for a particular, if you're talking about chemistry, which I suck at chemistry, but you'll get the idea. You got to know what the burn rate is of that particular, item. Okay. So whatever for wood is, or whatever for that, for silver, or for gold, or whatever that is, to get that point, so that you can get the purity of it, right? Well, the planet is going to have to go through its own purification, and that is when we're going to have the fulfillment. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't types and shadows events. Sorry, little hair. That's why I'd be real with you guys. Little hair comes in. Okay. There's a purification that will happen in the planet because Jesus is stepping down. Remember, Jesus is stepping down on the planet right here. Okay. He is stepping down and purifying. By the way, I believe that we're going to be having a type of EBS thing. The trumpets are going to be happening a little bit like this. And I'm going to tell you first off, there is going to be a sounding event. Now, they're right a little bit. There is going to be a type of trumpets or sounding event with Rosh Hashanah. I mean, and maybe not happening on Rosh Hashanah, but on that basic time frame of like, hey, listen, this is a great noise. And then Yom Kippur, maybe around that kind of time frame, we have like it going it over with, or maybe we're seeing some of this stuff that's happening. There have been throughout history, there have been times and types and shadows of these particular events, but the reality of the finality of those things won't happen until the end of the tribulation. These are end of the tribulation things. This also is the coming of the king. You can't separate coronation versus the coming. That's what these are events for. You cannot fulfill those particular areas. And it is the new year. Rosh Hashanah is not the new year. Yom Kippur is the full new year. Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of the new year, but the Yom Kippur is the actual new year. Okay, so it's called what I like to call the glorious appearance. So when Jesus is in Revelation 14, we have Jesus who's in the clouds, and I'm going to bring it up here over here on my iPad, so because it's a little hard to do this like with that. So let me bring it up here. You can bring it up on your own Bible, so that's fine. I really recommend you do that. Revelation 14:14. Then I looked, and there was one in the clouds. There was a white cloud, one like the Son of Man, seated in the clouds, with a gold crown on his head and a sickle in his hand. See, that is a very different response than 1 Thessalonians 4:16. Why? It's because he has a gold crown on his head. Now, there's also a Revelation 10:3. In Revelation 10:3, there is a difference. A statement's really, really weird. And he cried out with a loud voice, like a roaring lion, basically super, super loud. And he cried out with seven thunders and spoke their voices. And then, now John goes over here like this. He goes, and when I heard the seven thunders, I was about to write it down. And then when I heard the voices from seven, he sealed up. He goes, seal it up, seven thunders, don't write it down. He goes, basically, John's sitting over there with his little iPad. And he's like, and the angel goes, no, stop that. He doesn't say erase it. He says, just hold it. Like, put it in sealed notes, okay? Put password protected. Don't share it yet. It's not for the time frame. What could that be? Boy, that could be some real cool information. I don't know. Not going to worry about that. Now, I'm not going to get into this one because this one's a very interesting, powerful thing. But basically, the wicked are the winepress of the wrath of the Lamb. I really don't want to. We have to go deeper into this one. But Yom Kippur are the bowls of the vials, the purification kind of thing. Now, there is also a great earthquake that could easily be the sixth seal, seventh trumpet, the seventh vial, and the third woe all at the same time. There's a great earthquake that goes all the way through the earth, destroys mountains all the way down. Again, we're not in that time frame. We just are not at that point in time. That's why it's not going to happen. Armageddon battle has to happen too. We are not in that time frame, guys. Okay, there's death and terror. There's a dark moon, a pain and darkness. Guys, we are super not in that time frame. And there's an extra long day that like a Joshua day that happens at Yom Kippur. Now, again, rapture of the bride cannot happen. Must come at Yom Kippur. Must come with Yom Kippur. So we have a different type of fulfillment point. The seven shofar blasts, completed blessing, means a last rapture point. Okay, and I'm skipping over a little bit of this kind of stuff. This Yom Kippur is the great day of the wrath of the Lamb. Now, I know you guys are going to, well, I want to know some of all that stuff. Well, go watch the whole series. I'm not doing this as a longer part of the series. Now, I'm not doing this particular one because there's so many cool things out there. Because this is Armageddon, and we get really deep into that particular one with that. But what I'm trying to share with you is that so many people do not understand Rosh Hashanah, and they're throwing it out there, and then I'm like going, no, It's not. Rosh Hashanah has never been. I used to believe it for a long time. Forget about NESARA. Forget about the understanding in NESARA. I used to think Rosh Hashanah and Rapture was always going to occur, and then I would get always really upset when Rosh Hashanah didn't happen. Then I would go, "Oh, Yom Kippur," and then when it didn't happen, then I would be like, all depressed. I mean, I swear to you, this is what happened because I'm an end time teacher. I'm an end time studier, and I'm like, oh. And then I realized, God goes, Scott, you were misinterpreting the whole thing. That doesn't happen at the time frame. It doesn't happen at the time frame. I don't know when the rapture happens. I don't worry about that particular thing. It is one of the most secretive events of the time frame. I don't worry about it. I really don't worry about it. It will happen. Just like I don't know when the military is going to flip the switch. Okay. I really don't know that. But guys, be calm. It's coming. Just as sure as I am of the rapture of the church, just as sure as I am of the of Rosh Hashanah being fulfilled, not in September, just as sure as I am of the gold back currency, just as sure as I am of all these different things happening, I am sure because, not because of my expectation, which is called hope, ellipsis hope, but I am sure because of what the words of the Bible tell me. It's because he has proven himself over and over again. 3.5 years ago, I rose from the dead, in essence. Guys, know in your spirit because it's happening. It's happening in front of your eyes. It's all going to be okay. Promise you.